Sean Connery has died at the age of 90. The Scottish actor was best known for his portrayal of James Bond, being the first to bring the role to the big screen and appearing in 7 of the spy thrillers. His acting career spanned decades, and his many awards included an Oscar, 2 BAFTA awards and 3 Golden Globes. David Silito reports.
Bond. James Bond.
Sean Connery, a star whose life and career was defined by one word: Bond.
Looking for shells?
No, I'm just looking.
As the suave but ruthless 007, he spent the 60s saving the world and dealing with power-crazed evil geniuses. But the sudden success
Do you expect me to talk?
caught him by surprise.
No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die.
I had no awareness of that scale of kind of reverence and pressure and what have you.
His family today confirmed that he had died aged 90 at his home in Nassau, the end of a long and successful career. There was much more to him than just Bond, an Oscar for his role in The Untouchables.
You send one of yours to the hospital, you send one of his to the morgue.
But 007 always cast a shadow. Sean Connery had set the benchmark against which all others would be judged.
My name is Pussy Galore.
I must be dreaming.
Well, I've been speaking to film critic Jason Solomons and asked him what Sean Connery brought to the Bond role that made him such a legend.
Sometimes the tuxedo just fits, and I think that when Sean Connery opened his mouth and said the first words, "It's Bond, James Bond," that was just a light bulb moment. Sometimes there's a chemistry and there's a perfect moment on screen, and that's what happened. You could do screen tests, you could see it's right, and it was Cubby Broccoli's wife who said to him, "Look, this guy's the sexiest guy. I can tell you that one." She went into bat for him, and Cubby said, "Yes, okay, and we'll do a low-budget film to start with in Dr. No." But as soon as he lit that cigarette and said, "The name's Bond, James Bond," it was a perfect fit. And it's always been a perfect fit. No matter how many other Bonds have come along, that's never fitted quite as well as it did on Sean Connery. It was the right height. It was the right length, the tuxedo on him. The tie just fitted right. And all the other outfits were right. And around that, then he created this character who was both suave, charming and debonair, but also could kill you with his looks, with his gun, or with a put down.
Yeah, and wasn't Ian Fleming, the Bond author, a bit concerned at the beginning? Thought maybe that Sean Connery wasn't suave enough, he was too rough. But as you say, for many people, that roughness, that sort of edginess was what his appeal.
I think what Ian Fleming was saying was that Bond wasn't Etonian enough, because Sean Connery was a working class boy. Couldn't believe that he'd been to Eton as well. But I think that was the whole point of what he then made the Bond character on screen so popular, is that he did have a popular appeal. It wasn't a snobbish element. In fact, the Bond in the book is slightly a bit of a snob. He's slightly out of touch. I think there's something with Sean Connery that we can all relate to. The working man can relate to. There's a real granite-hewn sense of Scottish pride that runs through Bond because of Sean Connery, in a way. He created it, yes, Ian Fleming on the page, but I think that it's a different dimension. I think Sean Connery does something else with it on screen, and I think Bond on screen is a different character to the one Ian Fleming created originally. And of course, Bond on screen has gone on far longer than any of the Ian Fleming books. We've exhausted them, but we've not exhausted Bond, and I think that's because, unusually in this instance, we had an actor who was author of the role. Often you say it's directors or auteurs, they make the style. But Sean Connery created this different type of Bond, this Bond for the big screen, a Bond that we still feel today.
Yeah, and you talk about him being relatable. He really did come from very humble beginnings, didn't he?
Yeah, he was a working class boy from Fountain Bridge. He'd been a milkman, he'd been a bodybuilder, he'd been a boxer. And you can feel all of those things in Bond. This is a Bond who can handle himself. He's got fists, but it's also a Bond who's not afraid of hard work. And I think that's really important, certainly in the sort of explosion of sort of working class actors that were happening in British film in the 60s. You think of those gritty social realist films that Richard Harris was doing, the Saturday night, Sunday mornings that Tom Finney was doing. It was very important to have a relatable actor in Bond, even though he was playing an establishment figure. It was he's a slightly outside the establishment figure. This is someone who doesn't attend government meetings, who won't do what he's told. He is a maverick, and I think that's the streak that he had in him. He was a maverick. He'd got it. He'd somehow infiltrated himself into the British class system, and that was very important in post-war Britain, that it was possible to do that. There was some social mobility. So I think it was really important, and I think that's why Sean Connery, all his life, was a very political actor. You know, he had Scotland Forever tattooed on himself. He supported the Scottish National Independence Party. I think that comes out in all of his bonds, and I think he carries that with him. We may not recognise it immediately, but it's always there.